Have you ever regretted a hasty reaction, a sharp word, an impulsive action, or a decision made in anger? Most of us have. These moments, though fleeting, often leave lasting consequences that disrupt our inner peace and strain our relationships. But what if you could change that? What if you could master your emotions instead of letting them control you? Picture this. You're in a heated discussion with a colleague. They say something that stings, and your first instinct is to snap back. But instead, you pause. You take a deep breath, calm your mind, and respond thoughtfully. The tension diffuses, and the outcome is productive rather than destructive. This isn't just a rare moment of clarity, it's a skill anyone can develop. In this video, we'll explore the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy and its actionable techniques for emotional control. From mindfulness and gratitude to self-awareness and detachment, these principles will not only help you react less impulsively, but also transform how you navigate life's challenges. Stay with us as we uncover practical steps inspired by the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Steps that you can start applying today to create a more balanced, peaceful life. And before we begin, share your own story in the comments below. How do you handle emotional triggers? Let's learn from one another and grow together on this journey to emotional mastery. 1. Mindfulness, living fully in the present moment. To master your emotions, you must first learn to observe them without judgment. Feelings are not enemies to conquer. They are signals, indicators of your inner state. The Stoics taught that emotions arise not from the events themselves, but from how we perceive them. When you pause to notice your thoughts and emotions without labeling them as good or bad, you reclaim control. This practice, what we call non-judgmental observation, allows you to accept emotions as part of the human experience rather than letting them dictate your reactions. Equally important is staying anchored in the present moment. How often do you find yourself caught up in regrets about the past or anxieties about the future? These distractions steal your ability to act wisely in the here and now. By focusing fully on the present, you shift your attention to what you can control: your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It's in this moment that clarity and peace can be found. Mindfulness doesn't stop at observation. It extends to action. Every step you take, every decision you make, becomes more intentional when you practice mindful actions. Instead of rushing through the day on autopilot, mindfulness encourages you to slow down, pay attention to the details, and approach each task with purpose. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that the path to mastering emotions begins within. The Stoics emphasized focusing on what is under your control and accepting the rest with grace. Mindfulness is the key that unlocks this power. Imagine a man coming home after a stressful day at work. His boss criticized him in front of his colleagues, leaving him humiliated and angry. As he walks through the door, his son runs up, eager to show him a drawing from school. But instead of appreciating the moment, the man snaps, telling the child to leave him alone. The room falls silent, and guilt quickly takes over. Now consider a different approach. As this man enters his home, he notices the anger bubbling within him. He doesn't fight it or suppress it. He observes it, understanding that it's a natural response to the day's events. By pausing for a moment and taking a few mindful breaths, he shifts his focus to the present. He looks at his son and realizes this moment, this connection, is what truly matters. Instead of reacting impulsively, he kneels, smiles, and asks his son to tell him about the drawing. This simple yet profound shift transforms the outcome. The man's emotions no longer control him. Instead, he acts with purpose and presence. This is mindfulness in action, and it aligns perfectly with Stoic principles. Marcus Aurelius might describe this as using reason to guide emotions, ensuring they serve you rather than overpower you. To apply this in your own life, start by practicing mindful observation. When frustration or anger arises, pause and name the feeling. Recognize it for what it is, temporary and within your control. Then, focus on the present moment by grounding yourself in your surroundings. A sound, a breath, or a small detail you notice. Finally, let this awareness guide your actions. Be deliberate, whether you're having a conversation, completing a task, or simply spending time with loved ones. When you live mindfully, you create a space between stimulus and response, a space where wisdom resides. Mastering this practice is not about suppressing emotions. It's about using them wisely to navigate life with clarity and resilience. This is the essence of emotional control, as the Stoics envisioned it, and it is a skill that you can cultivate every day. 2. Embrace change and impermanence. Everything in life changes. Relationships evolve, careers shift, and even our bodies transform with time. Yet, we often resist these changes, clinging to what feels familiar and permanent. This resistance creates suffering as we struggle against the inevitable flow of life. By accepting the transience of all things, we reduce our attachment to outcomes and open ourselves to growth. This is not about detachment in the sense of indifference, but about understanding that nothing stays the same. And that's okay. When you embrace impermanence, you cultivate adaptability and resilience. Change becomes less of a threat and more of a teacher. It challenges you to step outside your comfort zone and discover strengths you didn't know you had. Growth through change is not automatic, but for those willing to adapt, it is transformative. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "Don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do." This isn't about surrendering to fate. It's about aligning your perspective with reality. When you focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, you build a foundation of inner stability, no matter how turbulent life becomes. Imagine a man who built his identity around his career. For decades, he was a respected leader, someone who thrived on the challenges of his work. Then one day, he lost it all. Downsizing, budget cuts, and suddenly the foundation of his life was gone. At first, he resisted, consumed by anger and despair. The loss wasn't just financial, it was personal. He felt like a failure. But over time, he began to see this setback as an opportunity. Without the demands of his old job, he found space to reflect on what truly mattered. He spent more time with his family, reconnected with old passions, and even started a small business doing something he loved. What seemed like the end turned out to be the beginning of a more fulfilling chapter. The man's shift in perspective reflects a Stoic approach to change. Marcus Aurelius would call this turning obstacles into opportunities. Instead of lamenting what was lost, the man chose to focus on what was possible. This mindset doesn't erase the pain of loss, but it reframes it, showing how growth can emerge from adversity. To bring this into your own life, start by acknowledging that change is inevitable. When faced with a challenge, pause and remind yourself, "This is temporary, and I have the power to shape my response." Instead of fixating on what's out of your control, direct your energy toward what you can influence. Build resilience by practicing gratitude for the constants in your life, your values, your ability to adapt, and your capacity to learn. One practical exercise is to reflect daily on a recent change, big or small, and identify one positive outcome it brought. This practice trains your mind to see change not as an enemy, but as a catalyst for growth. When you embrace impermanence, you find strength in the ebb and flow of life. You realize that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. And with this awareness, you navigate challenges with grace, turning the unexpected into an opportunity to evolve. This is how you control your emotions amidst uncertainty, not by resisting change, but by flowing with it, just as the Stoics envisioned. 3. Gratitude and positivity. Life is full of challenges, and yet it's often the small moments that hold the greatest potential for peace. Gratitude is about recognizing these moments, appreciating what you already have rather than fixating on what's missing. It's a shift in perspective, one that replaces dissatisfaction with contentment. This practice not only soothes emotional turbulence, but also cultivates a sense of abundance, even in adversity. Stoics like Seneca understood the power of gratitude. He wrote, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things he has not, but rejoices for those he has." Gratitude is not blind optimism. It's a deliberate act of acknowledging the present moment's value. By appreciating what is, rather than yearning for what isn't, you take the first step toward mastering your emotions. Positivity strengthens this foundation. When you reframe difficulties, viewing them as opportunities to learn and grow, you change the narrative of your life. Challenges no longer appear as threats, but as tools for self-improvement. This mental shift, known as positive reframing, allows you to maintain emotional control even when circumstances are less than ideal. Imagine a man whose business faces financial struggles. His instinct is to panic, to spiral into fear of failure. But instead, he takes a moment to reflect on what he still has: a supportive family, loyal clients, and his determination to persevere. He doesn't deny the difficulty, but he chooses to see it as a chance to innovate. By focusing on what's possible rather than what's lost, he retains his composure and works towards solutions. This approach aligns with the Stoic mindset. Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of choosing how you perceive the world, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you shift your focus to the positives, you reclaim your ability to act rationally, free from the chaos of unchecked emotions. Contentment, the ultimate goal of gratitude and positivity, is about finding peace in the present. It's not complacency, it's clarity. By reducing desires and accepting life as it is, you create room for joy and resilience. Instead of being overwhelmed by what you lack, you discover the richness of what you already possess. To practice this in daily life, start by identifying 3 things you're grateful for each evening. They don't have to be monumental. Sometimes it's the taste of your morning coffee or a kind word from a stranger. This simple habit rewires your mind, gradually shifting your focus from scarcity to abundance. When faced with a challenge, pause and ask yourself, what's one good thing I can take from this? This isn't about ignoring difficulties, but about balancing the narrative. For example, if you face criticism at work, recognize it as an opportunity to improve, rather than a personal attack. Gratitude, positivity, and contentment aren't just abstract ideas. They are tools for controlling your emotions and navigating life with purpose. When you embrace these practices, you build emotional resilience, turning everyday moments into opportunities for growth and peace. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilling life lies not in external achievements, but in mastering your internal world. Gratitude is your starting point. Begin today, and you'll find that even the smallest shift in perspective can lead to profound change. 4. Self-awareness. To control your emotions, you must first understand them. Emotions often feel like storms, unpredictable and overwhelming, but they rarely come without a cause. Every emotional response has a trigger, something external that ignites a spark within. Recognizing these triggers is the first step toward mastery. When you identify what sets off anger, frustration, or sadness, you gain the power to pause before reacting. This awareness doesn't eliminate emotions, it transforms them from uncontrollable reactions into manageable responses. Self-reflection deepens this process. It's about stepping back to analyze your own thoughts, behaviors, and feelings. Why did a specific comment irritate you? Was it the words themselves, or an unresolved insecurity they uncovered? Reflection allows you to uncover these hidden layers, giving you clarity about your emotional patterns. But awareness and reflection are incomplete without control. Moving from impulsive reactions to deliberate, thoughtful responses is what defines emotional strength. Controlled responses aren't about suppressing emotions, they're about channeling them constructively. You choose your actions based on reason, not impulse. And in doing so, you align with the core of Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This idea reminds us that our emotions are shaped not by events, but by how we interpret them. Imagine a manager in a high-stakes meeting. A team member makes a careless remark that could be perceived as criticism. The manager feels the heat of anger rising, but instead of snapping, he pauses. He considers what triggered the reaction, the frustration of feeling undermined. Taking a deep breath, he calmly asks for clarification, turning a moment of tension into an opportunity for constructive dialogue. This pause, this choice to respond rather than react, exemplifies the Stoic ideal of emotional control. By understanding the trigger and reflecting on its meaning, the manager avoided escalating the situation. He chose clarity over conflict, demonstrating that even under pressure, emotions can be managed wisely. To practice this in your own life, start by observing your emotional triggers. When you feel a strong reaction, whether it's anger, jealousy, or sadness, pause and name the emotion. Ask yourself, what caused this, and why am I reacting this way? Write down your reflections in a journal, noting patterns over time. Next, focus on creating space between stimulus and response. When something provokes you, take a deep breath, count to 5, or walk away for a moment. This brief pause allows your rational mind to catch up with your emotions, giving you the clarity to act intentionally. Finally, practice controlled responses. Instead of lashing out, choose words and actions that align with your values. If someone criticizes you unfairly, respond with calmness, addressing the comment without letting anger dominate. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, strengthening your emotional resilience. Self-awareness isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Each step you take toward understanding your triggers, reflecting on your actions, and responding deliberately brings you closer to mastering your emotions. As the Stoics taught, control doesn't come from silencing emotions, but from transforming them into tools for growth and clarity. This transformation is within your reach, starting now. 5. Compassion and loving kindness. To truly master your emotions, you must understand others. Empathy, the ability to place yourself in someone else's position, is a powerful tool for emotional control. It softens anger, reduces frustration, and allows you to see beyond immediate conflicts. When you empathize, you recognize that every individual faces their own struggles, often invisible to the outside world. This awareness leads to compassion, helping you respond with kindness instead of hostility. A non-judgmental attitude complements empathy. It's natural to form opinions, but harsh judgments often cloud our ability to connect. By avoiding criticism and embracing differences, you shift your focus from what divides us to what unites us. Compassion isn't about agreeing with everyone. It's about accepting that every person's perspective is shaped by their unique journey. These principles create a foundation for meaningful relationships. Building connections based on respect, understanding, and love not only strengthens your bonds with others, but also brings clarity and balance to your emotional state. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus advised, "What you shun enduring yourself, attempt not to impose on others. Treat others with the grace you would want in return, and you will find harmony in your interactions." A woman was once confronted by her elderly neighbor over a trivial matter. The leaves from her tree had fallen into his yard. The neighbor was agitated, raising his voice, clearly upset. Her first instinct was to argue back. After all, it wasn't her fault the wind carried the leaves. But instead of reacting impulsively, she paused. She noticed his trembling hands and the weariness in his voice. She realized this wasn't just about leaves. The man was lonely and looking for someone to notice him. With calmness, she apologized for the inconvenience and offered to help clean the yard. The neighbor's anger melted, replaced by gratitude. Over time, their interaction blossomed into a friendship, proving how compassion can transform conflict into connection. This approach is rooted in Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius taught, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" By reflecting on your own imperfections, you approach others with greater humility and understanding. In your own life, practice empathy by listening more than you speak. When someone upsets you, pause and ask, what might they be going through? This simple question shifts your perspective, allowing you to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. Cultivating a non-judgmental attitude takes time, but starts with small steps. When you feel the urge to criticize, redirect your thoughts toward understanding. For instance, if a colleague misses a deadline, instead of labeling them as unreliable, consider whether they might be overwhelmed or in need of support. Building connections grounded in compassion doesn't just improve your relationships, it enhances your emotional resilience. When you approach others with kindness, you create an environment of mutual respect and understanding. This not only diffuses potential conflicts but also brings peace to your own mind. Compassion and loving kindness are not signs of weakness but of profound strength. They allow you to rise above petty frustrations and focus on what truly matters, fostering harmony, understanding differences, and mastering your own emotions in the process. As the Stoics believed, controlling your emotions isn't about shutting them off. It's about channeling them wisely to build a life of clarity and purpose. 6. Meditation and inner peace. Amid the noise and chaos of life, the mind can feel like a crowded room, overwhelmed by distractions, consumed by worries, and restless with what-ifs. Calming the mind is not about silencing it completely, but creating space for clarity. When you reduce distractions and give yourself moments of quiet reflection, you cultivate a sense of control. This stillness allows you to see emotions for what they are, passing waves, not permanent storms. Emotional regulation is the next step. By training your mind to observe emotions rather than react impulsively, you learn to respond with purpose. It's not about suppressing what you feel, but guiding it in a way that aligns with your values. The Stoics believed in the power of reason over impulse, reminding us that we can choose how to channel our emotions. Inner stillness is the ultimate goal, a state where, even amid life's turbulence, you carry peace within you. It's not the absence of challenges, but the presence of a steady, resilient mind. Marcus Aurelius described it as being like a rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. A man once faced the impending failure of a project he had poured years of effort into. The news of its collapse arrived suddenly, and with it came waves of frustration, fear, and anger. But instead of letting those emotions consume him, he took a different approach. Each morning, he sat quietly for 10 minutes, focusing on his breath. In this time, he allowed the emotions to arise without judgment, observing their ebb and flow like clouds passing in the sky. Over the weeks, something shifted. The intensity of his emotions began to fade, replaced by a calm determination. He no longer saw the failure as an end, but as a new beginning. By calming his mind, he was able to think clearly and plan his next steps. What might have been a downward spiral became an opportunity for growth. This practice aligns with Stoic teachings. Epictetus emphasized, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Meditation isn't just sitting still. It's a deliberate act of reclaiming control over your emotions. It gives you the space to step back, see the bigger picture, and respond wisely. You don't need elaborate rituals to incorporate this into your life. Start small. Dedicate 5 minutes a day to sitting quietly and focusing on your breath. When thoughts arise, don't push them away. Observe them and let them pass. Over time, this simple habit strengthens your ability to remain calm, even in the face of stress. When life feels overwhelming, create moments of inner stillness by grounding yourself in the present. Take a slow, deep breath and focus on the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. Remind yourself that no emotion, no matter how intense, lasts forever. Through meditation and the pursuit of inner peace, you gain mastery over your emotions. You transform reactive impulses into deliberate actions, aligning your responses with the wisdom of Stoic philosophy. The world around you may not change, but your ability to navigate it with calm and clarity will. In that stillness, you find freedom, the freedom to choose peace, no matter the storm. 7. Let go of attachments. In life, we often find ourselves clinging tightly to outcomes, possessions, or even people. This attachment creates an illusion of stability, but when the unexpected occurs, a failed goal, a lost possession, or a strained relationship, it becomes a source of pain. Non-attachment doesn't mean indifference. It means valuing these things without allowing them to define you. By letting go of excessive dependence on external factors, you free yourself from unnecessary suffering and gain clarity to focus on what truly matters. A part of this practice is accepting uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of planning or control can change that. When you accept this truth, you begin to loosen your grip on the need to micromanage every detail of your existence. Instead, you focus on what is within your control, your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. This acceptance doesn't just reduce stress, it empowers you to face challenges with grace. Ultimately, this leads to inner freedom, the kind of freedom that comes from not being tethered to things outside of yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind. not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you stop attaching your happiness to possessions, achievements, or relationships, you reclaim that power. A father once dreamed of providing his son with every advantage in life. He worked tirelessly, believing that success was measured by the size of their home and the brand of their car. Then, unexpectedly, his company downsized, and he lost his job. Everything he had worked for seemed to crumble overnight. He was consumed by shame, worrying he had failed his family. But in the months that followed, he noticed something surprising. His son didn't care about the car or the house. What the boy cherished were the evenings they spent together, playing games and telling stories. Slowly, the father began to let go of his attachment to external symbols of success. He realized that true wealth lay in their bond, not in material possessions. This shift mirrors the teachings of Stoicism. Epictetus advised, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The father couldn't control the job loss, but he could control how he responded. By embracing non-attachment, he found joy in what he still had, rather than mourning what was lost. To apply this in your own life, start by identifying what you are most attached to. Whether it's a goal, a possession, or a relationship, ask yourself, does this define my worth? Would I still be okay without it? This isn't about abandoning ambition or relationships, but about balancing your reliance on them. Next, practice accepting uncertainty. When faced with the unknown, remind yourself that uncertainty is a constant in life. Instead of resisting it, focus on the present moment and the actions you can take today. Finally, nurture inner freedom by finding joy in things that cannot be taken from you: your values, your character, and your ability to grow. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care wisely, without letting external forces dictate your peace. When you let go of attachments, you gain a profound sense of emotional control. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances, but grounded in your strength. This is the Stoic way of living, rooted in resilience, guided by reason, and free to focus on what truly matters. 8. Simplify your life. In a world full of distractions, the mind often feels cluttered and overwhelmed. We chase goals, accumulate possessions, and fill our schedules to the brim, yet we often lose sight of what truly matters. Simplifying your life is not about giving up everything. It's about focusing on the essentials. When you identify your core values and prioritize them, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and regain control of your emotions. Reducing clutter is more than decluttering your home. It's about removing mental and emotional distractions. This might mean letting go of toxic relationships, avoiding excessive commitments, or reframing your mindset to stop dwelling on things you cannot control. When your life is simpler, your mind becomes clearer, allowing you to navigate challenges with intention. Intentional living brings these ideas together. It's about choosing how you spend your time and energy, rather than letting the world decide for you. Instead of being pulled in every direction, you create a life aligned with your purpose, making room for peace and fulfillment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." The Stoics understood that simplicity wasn't a sacrifice, but a pathway to clarity and emotional resilience. When you focus on what truly matters, you create space for wisdom to flourish. A young entrepreneur once found himself at the peak of his career, but overwhelmed by the weight of his success. His calendar was packed with meetings, his inbox flooded with emails, and his personal life seemed to slip further away. Each day felt like a race against time, leaving him exhausted and disconnected. One weekend, during a rare moment of quiet, he decided to reassess his priorities. He started small, eliminating tasks that didn't align with his goals. He cut back on unnecessary meetings, delegated responsibilities, and began saying no to projects that didn't resonate with his values. He also simplified his personal life, focusing on meaningful relationships rather than social obligations. Slowly, his stress levels dropped and his focus sharpened. He discovered that by doing less, he could achieve more, not just in work, but in life. This story reflects the essence of Stoic simplicity. The young man's transformation wasn't about abandoning ambition, it was about aligning his actions with his priorities. Seneca often advised against being consumed by trivial pursuits, emphasizing that clarity comes from focusing on what's essential. To apply this philosophy, begin by identifying the core values that guide your life. Ask yourself, what truly matters to me? Use these answers to assess where you spend your time and energy. If something doesn't serve your purpose or bring you closer to your goals, consider letting it go. Next, reduce mental and emotional clutter. This might mean practicing gratitude to combat feelings of lack, setting boundaries with people who drain your energy, or minimizing exposure to negative influences like social media. By clearing space in your mind, you create room for focus and peace. Finally, embrace intentional living by committing to actions that align with your values. When faced with decisions, pause and ask, does this contribute to the life I want to build? This small habit can help you make wiser choices and cultivate emotional control. A simplified life doesn't mean an empty life. It means a life filled with purpose. By focusing on what's truly important, you free yourself from distractions, reduce stress, and find the peace that comes from living authentically. This is the heart of Stoic philosophy, living with intention, clarity, and resilience, even in a complex world. 9. Understand suffering. Suffering is a universal experience. It touches every life, often in unexpected ways. The Stoics taught that pain, whether physical or emotional, is not something to fear, but something to understand. By recognizing suffering as a natural part of life, you begin to see it not as a punishment, but as a teacher. It reveals your attachments, what you cling to, what you desire, and what you fear losing. Attachment lies at the heart of suffering. We pin our happiness on outcomes, possessions, or relationships, believing that they define our worth. When these things are threatened or lost, the resulting pain can feel unbearable. Yet, this pain stems not from the loss itself, but from our unwillingness to let go. By understanding this, you can begin to loosen the grip of attachment and find freedom from unnecessary suffering. Acceptance is the antidote. When you stop resisting reality and embrace it as it is, you free yourself from the emotional turmoil of wishing things were different. Acceptance is not about giving up. It's about working with what you have rather than lamenting what you don't. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words remind us that peace comes from within, not from the absence of challenges. A man once invested years into building his dream home, pouring his savings and energy into every detail. Just as it was nearing completion, a natural disaster struck, leaving the house in ruins. His initial reaction was devastation. Anger at the unfairness, sadness for the loss, and fear for the future. But as days passed, he began to shift his perspective. He realized that clinging to his vision of the perfect home was only deepening his pain. Instead of focusing on what was lost, he turned his attention to what remained. His family was safe, and he still had the resources to rebuild. He accepted the situation for what it was and found the strength to move forward, free from the weight of his earlier expectations. This shift mirrors the Stoic approach to suffering. Epictetus taught, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." The man couldn't control the disaster, but he could control how he chose to respond. By accepting reality, he reclaimed his power and freed himself from unnecessary anguish. To integrate this practice into your life, start by identifying your attachments. What do you fear losing? What expectations cause you frustration? Reflect on how these attachments contribute to your suffering and consider how letting go might bring relief. When faced with pain or disappointment, pause and remind yourself, this is outside my control, but my response is not. Instead of resisting the situation, channel your energy into adapting and finding solutions. Acceptance is not passive, it's active. It's choosing to respond rather than react. Suffering, when understood, becomes a gateway to growth. It teaches resilience, fosters humility, and deepens your capacity for empathy. The Stoics believed that the way we handle pain defines the quality of our lives. By understanding suffering, releasing attachment, and embracing reality, you not only control your emotions but also transform adversity into strength. This is the path to a life of clarity, balance, and inner peace. 10. Trust the process, control your emotions by shifting your focus from the end goal to the effort you put in each day. Results are uncertain, and worrying about them only drains your energy. But when you commit to consistent action, you build momentum and confidence. The Stoics believe that your efforts, not the outcomes, define your character. By focusing on what you can control, your decisions and actions, you release yourself from the anxiety of uncontrollable results. Patience and perseverance are the keys to sustaining this mindset. Achieving meaningful goals takes time, and setbacks are inevitable. When you practice patience, you create the mental space to adjust and persist. Perseverance keeps you moving forward, even when progress feels slow. It is through these qualities that you find strength, knowing that the process itself holds the greatest value. Embracing the journey means appreciating the lessons each step offers. Life isn't about arriving at a destination, it's about growing and evolving along the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Challenges, rather than obstacles, are opportunities to learn and refine your character. A writer once dreamed of publishing a novel that would touch lives. She spent years perfecting her manuscript, only to face rejection after rejection from publishers. The disappointment was crushing, and doubts crept in. But instead of giving up, she focused on improving her craft. Each rejection became a lesson, a chance to rewrite, reimagine, and grow. Over time, she stopped measuring success by publication and began embracing the joy of writing itself. This shift in perspective transformed her work. Eventually, a publisher saw the brilliance in her story, and her book became a success. But for her, the true reward was the journey, the resilience, growth, and fulfillment she gained through the process. This aligns perfectly with Stoic philosophy. Epictetus advised, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." The writer defined her goal, committed to her effort, and trusted that the process would guide her to where she needed to be. In your life, start by focusing on small, consistent actions. Whether you're pursuing a personal goal, learning a new skill, or overcoming a challenge, remind yourself that each step counts. Set achievable daily objectives and celebrate progress rather than fixating on the finish line. When setbacks occur, embrace them as part of the process. Instead of seeing failure as a reason to stop, view it as a redirection. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Adopting this mindset allows you to adapt, grow, and move forward with resilience. Finally, remind yourself to find joy in the journey. Reflect on the small victories along the way, an insight gained, a skill improved, or a moment of clarity. These experiences shape you more than any result ever could. Trusting the process doesn't mean abandoning your goals. It means anchoring your emotional state in what you can control. By focusing on effort, practicing patience, and embracing the journey, you achieve more than success. You achieve mastery over yourself. This is how the Stoics lived, and it's how you too can navigate life with wisdom, strength, and peace. Life constantly tests us with challenges that demand emotional control, resilience, and clarity. Through the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, we've explored ways to master your emotions and find peace amidst the chaos. From mindfulness and gratitude to embracing change, letting go of attachments, and trusting the process, these lessons are not abstract ideals, but practical tools you can use every day. Each of these principles is a stepping stone toward a calmer, more focused life. By practicing non-judgmental observation, you gain the clarity to act rather than react. By simplifying your priorities, you free your mind from unnecessary distractions. And by accepting life's uncertainties, you strengthen your ability to adapt and grow. These practices, small but consistent, create the foundation for inner peace and emotional resilience. But wisdom is not achieved through words alone. It is forged through action. I encourage you to take one lesson from today's video and apply it to your life starting now. Whether it's pausing to breathe in moments of stress, reflecting on your attachments, or trusting the process, commit to practicing these principles daily. Growth comes not from perfection, but from persistence. Lastly, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. How have you worked to master your emotions, and what challenges have you faced along the way? Your experience may inspire others on their journey. Remember, Stoic philosophy is not just about enduring life, it's about thriving with purpose and peace. Begin where you are, take one step at a time, and watch as these practices transform not only your emotions, but your entire perspective on life. The journey is yours to embrace.